My name is Ifra. I'm currently studying human nutrition at the University of Helsinki. I've lived most of my life in Nairobi, Kenya, and growing up I always had access to quality nutritious food. Unfortunately, that's not the case for many families back at home. Even though the nutrition status has changed throughout the decades, there are still many families who are experiencing nutrition insecurity. What this means that they do not have access to food, and most importantly, they do not have access to quality nutritious food. The ongoing nutrition transition towards unhealthy dietary patterns is already increasing the prevalence of obesity, which then increases the triple burden of under and overnutrition as well as micronutrient deficiencies in African countries. For example, in Kenya, chronic diseases such as cardiovascular diseases and type 2 diabetes are already creating the same burden as communicable diseases. And it's because of these nutritional challenges which sparked my interest in studying human nutrition so that I would be able to address malnutrition in its all forms. But are there any projects that would tackle these nutritional challenges, taking into account the food system in a sustainable manner? Let's find out from our researchers at the University of Helsinki.
In InnoFoodAfrica, we nutrition researchers are working towards developing food-based dietary guidelines for urban areas in sub-Saharan Africa in order to improve population's nutrition status. Our approach is to use the African traditional grains and pulses, which are already well suited for the local food culture. We really want to make the African food diet pattern as famous as the Mediterranean diet pattern that everybody wants to follow, but more importantly, that everybody can follow. But how is this recommendation connected to food system more broadly?
In InnoFoodAfrica, we work with food scientists to create new crops that are based on traditional crops but are now more nutritious and more resilient to changing climate conditions. But we do not only work with science or scientists and researchers, but we also work with local food authorities and food companies. And the idea with this kind of a practical collaboration is to facilitate behavior change among the population so that the new crops would be or would become a part of the daily diet of as many people as possible. When we work and start to create new food-based dietary guidelines, the important things to start it with are the nutritional status and food consumption habits in the population that we are working with. But unfortunately, there's a pretty big gap in the knowledge of this in sub-Saharan African countries. And that's why all the 4 countries that are involved in the InnoFoodAfrica project, we will do quite extensive research in trying to understand the food consumption and dietary intakes of the population, and based on that we then understand how to focus the new food-based dietary guidelines.
So we plan to collect dietary data from 400 mothers and their young children in urban locations in Ethiopia, Kenya, South Africa and Uganda. And our research group at the Department of Food and Nutrition, University of Helsinki, we have been involved in several dietary studies in research and capacity building projects. So we really want to build on that work and the experience we've gained. And next we would like to highlight some of that work to you. With the participants, we will do interviews which are called 24-hour recalls. And the idea of these interviews is to get as detailed information of the participants' food intake as possible from the previous day. And in addition to this, we will also want to get information on participants' longer-term food consumption. And for that we will use food frequency questionnaires, which was developed and validated in another research project that also involved researchers from our research group. The most demanding part of the 24-hour dietary recall is to accurately estimate how much each food was eaten. And to aid this estimation, we will use a photographic food atlas, which was originally developed for Kenyan adolescents in another project called Kenfin Edura, where we worked with Kenyatta University and Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. And now we want to expand the food atlas to cover all women in reproductive age so that we can use it in our data collection. And actually the food atlas is already available for anyone to use freely online. Another challenge in collecting dietary data is the amount of data processing after the data has been collected. For example, the interviews are usually collected using pen and paper, so they must be transformed in electronic format after the data collection. In our study, we will use a digital platform called ODK to collect the data. And we have taken the prototypes of the forms from another project, and now we will develop a fully automated process that will calculate the food and nutrition and nutrient intakes automatically, so that in the future researchers don't need to go through the heavy data processing, but they get the data in ready to analyze format. Once the data has been collected, our researchers will use some of the modern modeling techniques and come up with solutions for healthy and affordable dietary patterns. The fine-tuning of the recommendations will be done together with you to find the best solutions, how to implement the recommendations and to develop new food products and how to market them. We will be also working with local experts to educate and inform people on how they could start making changes in their diet that would increase their adherence to the new dietary recommendations. We will also plan to develop an approach which would facilitate taking the food atlas into active use in local healthcare, for example, in community nutritionist work when they give dietary counseling to the mothers.
You will find all the data collection tools, guidelines, marketing materials and training materials in our information toolbox that will become available and free for anyone to use. There will also be training materials for farmers on best cultivating practices on the traditional species and information about the climate-smart varieties. If you want to learn more about our climate-smart approach, you can find all the videos from our webpage and from YouTube. Subscribe to our newsletter and start following our Twitter account to keep track of our progress, new innovations and upcoming seminars. If you wish to get more involved in what we are doing, feel free to contact us through our website or directly via email info@innofoodafrica.eu.